Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 10th, 2024 Abington Finance Committee meeting. We are meeting in the lovely and not sweltering Cotter Room at Town Hall. We have a couple of members, 3 members, who are joining us via Zoom. One who should be joining via Zoom soon. And one who will be missing tonight. We have a important but not too detailed agenda. We will be doing our reorganization, and then we will be reviewing year-end transfers. We'll be welcoming our new, in air quotes, member, returning member. And then we will go over minutes and correspondence, which I didn't check, and talk about our next meeting. So I will start now by turning the meeting over to our town manager, Scott Lambiase, as he needs to...
We need nominations for
he needs
chairman?
to take nominations for chairman or chairperson.
Do we have any nominations? Does anyone want to nominate themselves or someone else for chairman?
I'll nominate Matt.
Do I have, does anybody else want to be chairman? Any other nominations?
Greg,
For
you wanna be
chairman.
chairman this year? Greg does not. Dan, you want it back?
I do not.
Should we nominate Marty? Who's missing? Should we save secretary?
I'll go with whatever you want.
Hearing no other nominations, can I have a vote or motion for having Matt Zoller as the chairman yet again? Anybody want to make that motion? Can I have a second on that? Greg notifies us that he makes a second on that. All in favor? Anyone opposed?
That sounded like a lot opposed.
That's it. I will turn the meeting back over to the chairman.
All right, thank you. Next item up for bids on The Price is Right is the vice chair of the committee. As we discussed, most years, unlike last year, it doesn't come into play. The vice chair doesn't have that much to do. Any nominations for vice chair? I believe Greg just under his breath nominated Barbara Ray for vice chair.
To point of order, Mr. Chairman, you did mention that the vice chair does not do much. As such, I would like to nominate Greg Belazarian.
Oh, we have double nominations. I like it. We don't usually have competition here.
Seconded? Can I second that?
So glad this new member came back in. Great.
All right, so we have 2 nominations. We have a nomination for Barbara and a nomination for Greg. I will take the votes for Barbara first, the votes for Greg second. All those in favor of Barbara Ray being the vice chair, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
It's like 6 ayes, I think.
2, I see 3.
I see 4. I see, and so I will vote as well, since that's enough to carry. All those in favor of Greg?
Oh, I didn't know it was choice.
Chris, does that change your vote?
No, they're not.
Doesn't change his vote.
Good.
So, with that, Barbara has been nominated as vice chair.
She deserves it.
Next up is secretary.
I'll nominate Marty in his absence.
Andrew nominates Marty, who was given fair warning for missing this meeting.
I'll second.
Sarah seconds it. Any other nominations? Without any, all those in favor of electing Marty as the board secretary?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it is unanimous. And then we need a first statistician.
Chris.
Chris has
Seems to like
done,
that role.
has done an excellent job in that over the last several years. Any other nominations, or is there a second to that nomination?
Second, Chris.
Greg seconds Chris to try and avoid getting that title himself. Any other nominations? Without any, all those in favor of Chris as the first statistician?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? It is unanimous. Chris, congratulations. And then a second statistician.
I'll nominate myself for that one.
All right, Daniel nominates himself. Anyone second that?
I'll second.
Andrew seconds it. Any other nominations? Without any, all those in favor of Daniel for the second statistician?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining? It is unanimous, and we have reorganized ourselves. Thank you, everybody. Next order of business is welcoming our new member, a returning member, Dr. Sean Tyler, returning back to us after a few years' absence. We're very glad to have you back, Sean. It's always good to get your expertise, insight, breadth of knowledge on the various issues that come before us. It has been missing over the last few years with no disrespect to the people on the committee. I certainly have missed your expertise. I'm glad to have you back.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate your leadership in the group. Teasing aside, and for the group that doesn't have a chance to know me yet, Greg is my muse and will be my focus for nearly every budget or every comment that we have to make, and I apologize in advance for that.
Use the person who studies or the studier.
The muse is the person who inspires.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, with that, let's get to the real order of business for tonight, which is year-end transfers. So I'm going to ask our town accountant to take the lead on this and walk us through. And
Okay. Just before we begin, I did send out the original version, which was voted on by the select board on Monday. In front of you, if you're live, there is an updated sheet. There are asterisks by the two items that did change.
sorry, Andrew, do we have that we can put on the screen while we're doing this?
I can't connect with my laptop.
Yeah, my laptop's downstairs and hasn't
In front of the camera.
All right, go for that.
We will post this on the website. Oh, so you didn't get.
I was hoping the people who are online would be able to see it, and people watching the meeting will be able to see it. It will also be posted online, but.
Hey, Greg, serious point, if you take a picture of it with your phone and I'll share it on my screen.
the department heads, but
Just text it to me and I'll share it.
you were on that list.
I can email it to you if we want to email it to them.
If you email it to Sean, he said he can put it up on the screen.
Perfect.
Do you know it?
As soon as I finds it.
Sorry for the technical delays.
I just typed it.
All right.
I'm gonna forward it. I'm gonna phone.
I did. I sent it.
Oh, you emailed it?
I just typed it. There.
Oh, the picture?
Yeah.
That'll do.
It'll work.
Are you certain you sent me a text? There it comes. I got it. Yes, sir, you are. Thank you. Thank you very much. Stand by.
Getting a little sticky.
How is it out in Tahoe? Is it warm, breezy? Looks warm.
It's probably the warmest it's been. High 80s. But breezy and low humidity. So
I'm a little disappointed the two of you didn't meet up for this.
yeah, so Chris is actually pretty close by in South Lake. But Chris, I think you're working this whole thing, right?
No, no, I'm working the golf tournament the weekend. I was in Reno. I was 100, I left 102 in Reno
Yeah.
today.
I texted you. You didn't text me back.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Could have linked up, man.
Yeah.
All right, so I think Sean is
I'll text
working
you again, see if you
on,
get it.
working on putting
right.
that up on the
I didn't get
screen,
it.
but while he's working on that, I think we can get started.
Okay.
Yes, you can. It'll be up in 2 seconds.
Oh, all right. So number one on the transfers list, we're using health insurance as the source, and we'll be moving. We would like to move $222,300 from health insurance to the following line items: town manager salaries for $5,000, for that's for a contract raise.
So on that one,
Yep.
and is it okay if we go one by one?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. So on that one, was it a raise that we did not have projected in the budget?
Yeah, we renegotiated.
Okay. Renegotiated during the fiscal year, so.
And then in terms of the health insurance account in general, that was the one that we were running a refund. We used part of that to pay for something else, correct?
Yeah, so we'll be using the remainder of the health insurance trust, which is about 600, 700K, in fiscal '25 to pay for health insurance. So that's one-time money that won't be there after this year.
Okay.
But
So what is this excess?
there's a surplus in the budget for fiscal '24.
Not as many claims as we anticipated, essentially?
Or
Well-
not as many people took plans as could have.
Right, we have been cleaning up the list of people that are getting insurance. There's some people who are getting it but shouldn't have been, so that helped. I do have a note on health insurance, but we can talk about that later,
Okay.
We get to get that back or no?
which
People that got something that weren't supposed to.
I don't think we can go back. But they're off now, so we
There
won't
we
be incurring
go.
those costs anymore.
And then in terms of, I mean, it's only the first week of July, or second week of July. Do we anticipate that we'll get any additional bills for FY '24 that?
FY '24 should be paid up.
All right. So let's move to difficult legal year.
Yes, the next item for transfers is town council expenses, and that's $85,000.
That's one of the two that changed from when you emailed it earlier. It was 70.
Correct.
Then.
The original
Did we have
amount-
a- Did we have a difficult week this week?
Yeah, we got our final billing did come in from one of our firms.
And
Okay.
that was on top of our projected, what, 150? That was up
right, yeah.
100 from the prior year,
Let me get that.
Yeah.
so we're 235K a year.
Yeah, well, in this particular instance, this was a very unusual year with some unusual circumstances that I would like to think we're beyond that.
Will not repeat.
Will not repeat, correct.
Yeah. There was 160K in the budget, and it's about 230K spent.
Anyone else have questions on that?
What is it mostly for? Like, what is what's the?
We had several independent investigations that had to be done, and so we had to hire outside contractors for that. And yeah, it was just 90% personnel.
Up next, $12,000 for IT expenses. Those are costs related to the new website. After that, we have $2,000 for town clerk salaries, $2,500 for election salaries, and $4,000 for election expenses. And those are all elections-related costs.
So typically, we know how many elections there are going to be in a year. Did we project that wrong, or?
Well, we did have, there were some issues with the ballots on the past one, and then we actually, to make sure that we took care of that, we did mailers and then had to redo some ballots. So that's pretty much what those costs were.
Makes sense.
We're gonna have an unanticipated special election coming, correct?
We
didn't
do,
budget for that, right?
no.
What are those usually?
We actually have a lot of elections, I think, this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my guess is that'll probably run us $5,000 to $6,000.
So this time next year,
We may be sitting having this conversation.
we'll expect
or
a
similar.
transfer item
Yeah.
for election costs for this year, so.
After that, we have $200 for zoning salaries. That's the meeting stipend. The person who was doing it changed during the year. After that, $5,000 for town offices salaries. So that pays for the custodian. I don't think we have enough money in the budget for the hours that they do. So that will probably be another issue next year.
Can I just ask you a question, just so you can never have to put a $200 thing in here again? Can we just like put it on the person for the year? And whoever that person is gets that stipend, or is it just, it doesn't work that way?
I think this, what there was a transition, so somebody had actually probably gotten a portion of the stipend and.
No, I know, I'm sorry, I'm bad with words. Like somewhere in the budget that they have, $200, if it switches over, it's not gonna, I'm just saying, I feel bad that he has to account for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's an
Like,
accountant.
all right,
So
yeah.
for this one,
in his title.
the zoning line items are a separate appropriation, so.
All right.
There's not, we can't really put extra in it.
Yeah,
Okay, so, $5,000 for town offices salaries for the
so
custodian.
you were saying custodian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We think we're under for the year that's just starting
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah. And we have two folks that are part-time. They
They-
come in here and do this whole place, and they swap off with another person, so it's a lot.
Yeah. They also cover the library as well.
Yeah.
So,
And that's been going on for several years at this point. The number of hours they're working kick up, or is it?
Since
that
I've been here,
there's
hours
more
have-
There's more stuff they need to do.
I think their hours have increased. We've asked for more,
Okay.
more to be done. And yeah, and it's still, we could even do more than what we do.
I think any of us that have lived anywhere know that you can always clean more.
Yeah.
up next, $1,600 for town reports expenses. This year, instead of using our printers here, we had the town meeting warrants and exhibits professionally printed. So that's those costs. After that, fire expenses, $5,000.
What was that before the change? I can look. but-
That was zero.
Oh,
The
yeah.
supplies was overspent a little bit. I am assuming due to inflation and whatnot.
Yeah, and they're currently running, there was a problem with the ladder truck, and they came up sort of at the last minute. So I think that they did try to get that in under there, and that probably was what pushed it over.
The next one's a big one, $65,000 for building inspection salaries. The note here is emergency calls and personnel changes, and I believe I sent out the letter from the department head regarding those issues.
yep. Did anybody have questions on that? There was a pretty detailed description of what happened and what the changes were, and to help prevent in the future section on it, which I thought was good to see.
Yep.
So,
We've gone through a lot of transitions over the past few years. I think we're in a very good place right now with the folks that we have down there. So I'm pretty confident we won't have another issue.
And the building inspection? Was the letter sent to us?
it was attached with the initial copy of the transfers on the email.
Yeah.
There were two attachments. One was the transfers, the other was essentially a write-up of explaining this 6,500,
5,000.
1,000, yes. Underselling, my bad.
Yeah, got it, sorry.
Going forward, on the expense line, is there any way to tell each department that they can't get to 95%, 95, you can't go over 95% of their expenses?
Yeah, you know what, most of the departments are good, but what happens is obviously something
Yeah,
big comes up, and it's unavoidable. Most of them, do strive to return money at the end of the year. I think, you know, Andrew can
That's
probably speak to that.
That's why we end up with free cash.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm only saying like as a
Yeah.
rule, like, is there
Yeah,
a rule?
well, and they're notified monthly by
Okay.
Andrew, who says, hey,
Yeah.
here's where you are with your expenditures, pay attention. If you've got a problem, or if you anticipate a problem, let us know sooner than later. So there are checks and balances along the way.
I just mean in that thing that we're supposed to have done,
Financial policy.
thanks. Just,
I
again,
gotcha.
bad with words, but like, you know, maybe on there, like 95%, just so everybody can see it and live it every day, instead of just, you know,
Yeah.
And it does sound like they're pretty well
So,
yeah.
aware of that and on top of it. And I can say from what we have seen over the time I've been on the committee, the department heads are pretty good with that.
just as a point of information, every month in the beginning of the first business day, I put up a expenditure report on the accounting website. So if you want to take a look at that, it's there. In front of me, I have a report that I just ran today. It's not yet on the website, but this one has all the expenditures for FY24. And the general fund, it was spent 96%. So we have about $2.5 million left out of
Great.
the budget. So
Excellent.
overall, it's not too bad.
That's,
I was almost right on with 5%.
yeah.
It's just what we do.
You should have been vice chair.
No, he should be the
Oh, the
first
first
statistician.
It should be this. right
Challenging
here. It
Chris.
should be this. Pretty nice.
All right, so
So no other questions on the building inspection salaries part there? Okay.
next up is $25,000 for highway salaries. This is mostly related to spring cleanup. They did a lot of extra hours.
A lot of extra hours this spring, mostly like out in the town.
Yeah, I mean, it,
Like,
yeah.
There's a lot to do now.
was it, so trying to form the question in my mind, was it road cleanup, field cleanup, like recreation area cleanup? Do we know?
All of the above.
Combination
Yes,
of
that's
them.
exactly what it was. Just what you would expect, getting the fields ready, getting the, schools, everything.
Okay.
And are you confident that if we gave one more person over there, it wouldn't solve that?
It would certainly help. Yeah, he needs at least one more person.
Right.
I mean, I think we all kind of can look around town and see things
That's the
that,
reason I'm asking.
yeah, that we would like to say, we know we could get this done,
Yeah.
but he just doesn't have the time or the power.
Greg's mostly concerned about nip bottles.
I haven't seen any. I don't know what's going on.
Honestly.
I stopped throwing them out in front of your house.
Thanks. Appreciate
worry.
it.
And I
Don't
know where
worry.
you are.
Don't worry, Sean will start.
He will. It'll probably be a bag of them in a plastic bag.
And then the last two items here are snow and ice salaries and snow and ice expenses, $5,000 each, and that's for the remaining balance that wasn't covered at town meeting.
Was that stuff we didn't have at the time of town meeting?
Yeah, we had that.
We knew it was early April. It was cutting it close to actually
Yeah, there were some last minute
finalize that stuff.
invoices.
So, yeah.
And this question may have been asked before, but I believe everybody, but there's no way that these numbers are correct, right?
Yeah, they're rounded for
All right,
ease.
thanks.
It's
No,
a lot easier to type
Andrew has-
I got
5,000.
you.
In previous years, we have seen very, like, to the penny
Yeah.
numbers on this, and we talked about, I think it was either last
I
year.
just
or
wanted to
the year
make sure
before.
that's what we're doing.
We talked about with Andrew, like, for his sake, letting these be round numbers that go slightly over
Yep.
what the actual
Yep.
cost is.
Great.
So that he doesn't have to go to the penny on each individual thing. And the amount that it goes over, whatever the remainder, the change
Goes back.
on that is, goes back into what we
it.
certify for
Thank you.
free cash. And goes into that formula, so. Doesn't really matter which line it goes into it from, so.
Item 2 on the list is a $11,000 transfer from golf salaries to golf expenses. There were some house repairs that they decided to do at the end of the year that
And
were included in
they-
the budget.
they had a extra 11,000 in their salary line.
Yes.
Do we know Do we know why they have an extra 11,000? I mean, they bring in more than they spend, so.
My guess is they-
I don't want to nitpick anything with the golf department.
I mean, where it's so seasonal and they bring in so many seasonal people, I think they just project a bit higher to cover if they do have extra staff.
Yeah.
And then item 3 on the transfer list, $1,800 from civil defense expenses to civil defense salaries, and that's to cover the emergency management stipend for the deputy.
For the deputy what?
Deputy Emergency Management Director, who currently is our public health nurse.
Okay.
And, for that, I mean, she's pretty much assumed all of the duties of the Emergency Management Director. But by charter, it is still the chief of police.
Okay.
And, however, for the past year or so, she's taken on those duties and done it very well, too.
Yeah. All right, any questions before we make a motion and vote on the transfers? Anybody online have any questions?
No?
I can only see Chris, so I'm not sure if Dan or Sean were nodding no or shaking their head no.
No, well, both to a chagrin and no questions.
No questions.
No question.
All right, with that, I will take a motion to approve the transfers.
Motion to approve the transfers.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Greg, a second from Andrew.
Just point of question, point of order, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Is the motion for Mr. Belazarian is to approve the transfers as presented by the town manager in the amount of $222,300 from health insurance to cover the accounts that are listed?
I think
That's
it's-
exactly what I
I
said.
think
I don't know if my
That's for
microphone was
number one.
on.
Number two is from golf salaries, 11,000 to golf expenses, 11,000, and number 3 is 1,800 from civil defense expenses to $1,800 to salaries. No offense, Scott, I just like to be picayune as to what we're agreeing to.
I believe that was the motion that Greg was intending.
Yeah, my microphone might not have been on, but that's exactly what I said.
I appreciate that, sir.
So the motion, as stated, is to approve the transfers as printed on the handout and as is displayed on the screen for the Zoom, currently with $222,300 from health insurance to various sources, 11,000 from golf to golf, and 1,800 from civil defense to civil defense. With that stated, all those in favor of the motion to approve these transfers, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstaining? The transfers are approved unanimously. Thank you all very much. All right, next up, we have, let me just double check my agenda. Next up, we have a question. Are there any liaison reports from anyone? Does not appear that there are any liaison reports. After that is, did you have something, Andrew?
We wanted to briefly talk about health insurance.
Oh, okay. So we have our liaison report directly from our town accountant on health insurance.
So I attended the MSHG board meeting, so they're the people that, the insurance group that we're involved with. And I do have some bad news to report about health insurance. Our loss ratio, which is our ratio of paid claims to the amount of premium we put in, is about 130%. So that means
That's not good.
claims are bad. In terms of dollars, before reinsurance, the premium deficit is about 2.2 million. After reinsurance, it's about 1.1, so it's not as bad, thanks to the reinsurance. For fiscal 25, the rate is already set, so we won't be seeing that impact this year. But come next year, we're anticipating some hefty premium increases.
Well, that goes into the pile of things that we are going to have to deal with come the fall/winter as we prepare for the fiscal year 26 budget.
So what do we think of that? It's gonna be a couple million at least?
It's hard to say. We have another year of experience to get through. So if claims are better this year, it would help.
And are we in like an aggregate insurance now with several other self-insured towns, or what's the?
Yeah, so we are pooled with some other towns, but with the deficit that large, we will have to eventually make most of it up.
And why are we in this model? I've asked this before, but why don't we look for like a different health insurance model?
They're all in the same boat. This has actually been up until this year. I mean, and we had bad experiences. There's no doubt that some of the things that we had to pay out on were very bad, you know, and very expensive. So that's what's driving this. But this Mass Strategic Health Group, as far as whether we were with, you know, other options, Blue Cross we had looked at, which we were with, and we priced out Maya, and we had priced out Mayflower. And this is actually was still and has proven to be the better deal out of all of them. It's just the bad claims.
Andrew, were you on when we switched to this model? Or were you not on the board yet at that point?
Call.
Because we went to this model because we kept getting year after year increases of somewhere around like 9 to 13% rate increases. And it was, and they kept saying, oh, next year it'll be a 3% increase. And next year it was a 12% increase. And then next year it's going to be a lower increase, and it was a higher increase. And it like we were talking about through the spring with the trash, it got to the point where we needed to do something about it. And this is what the previous town manager brought us to, and has been overall fairly cost-effective for us and fairly successful for us over the past, has it been?
It's only been 3 years with them?
I mean, I brought it up before, but what about the GIC? I mean, it's stable, it's, you know,
But I don't think that their rates, I don't think that what we're seeing over there is any less of an increase than,
Yeah.
like I said, again,
but we're not gonna have those unexpected, we need $2
Bad
million.
years.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna be
With the experience that we have in the books, anywhere we go, they're going to be looking at us and jacking up the rate. So it's just hoping that 25 is better, claims-wise.
I mean, it's, you know, we have to do something, and we are gonna look at rate or plan changes and things that we can do for that to help. But certainly worth taking another look at GIC too. I'm not opposed to it, it's just, from what I'm hearing, it's not a better deal right now.
Yeah. Gallagher, the consultant that works with MSHG, has said that, you know, this is happening all across the state. So no matter where we go, it's probably not going to help. But we can look at options.
Other questions? Comments? Andrew, anything else?
That's it.
All right. All right, moving on our agenda, correspondence is next. There were no correspondence that I am aware of. After that is meeting minutes. We have 4 sets of meeting minutes that were provided by Kelly for us to review. We are traveling in the Wayback Machine to December and January for our meeting minutes that we need to get approved. Starting with the meeting minutes for December 6th. Myself, Chris, Greg, and Sarah were at that particular meeting and are able to make a motion on those minutes. Motion to approve from Greg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Sarah. Any comments on the meeting minutes from December 6th, which, very detailed, good level of detail, I think, with the questions we had with the minutes during last year. I think Kelly found a good,
Found the sweet spot.
found a sweet spot, a good medium of providing some level of detail, but not too much. So, I think she did a very good job. So, any other comments or questions on December 6th? Without any, all those in favor of approving the December 6th meeting minutes?
Aye.
All those opposed, abstaining?
Abstain.
It is unanimous among those eligible to vote. The minutes are approved. The next minutes up are December 13th, when we had the library, the health department, and water. Everybody here except for Sean is eligible because we were all at that meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion from Andrew
I'll second.
and a second from Sarah. Any comments on the December 13th minutes? The wind is making a comment of its own. Other than that, there are no comments. So all those in favor of approving the December 13th, 2023 minutes?
Aye.
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 All those
Aye.
opposed, abstaining? It is unanimous again. Next minutes are December 20th. And that one, we had Chris, myself, and Sarah. Only 3 of us who are here, so we should probably skip those for now. And that takes us to March 20th. We had myself, Andrew, Chris, Greg, and Sarah, so we definitely can vote on those.
Make a motion to approve.
So a motion from Andrew again,
I'll second.
and again a second from Sarah. Any comment on the meeting minutes? Let's see, who did we have on that one? We had our town planner. We had a discussion of the overall budget. We were close to ready for town meeting at that point, so. Any other comments on the March 20th, 2024 meeting minutes? Without any, all those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? The minutes are approved. Next up is scheduling our next meeting. I think the important questions at this stage as we just start the fiscal year is, are there any pressing or urgent things that would require us to meet in the next month or so? And where are we at on whether or not there will be a fall town meeting this year?
I believe we need to have a fall town meeting for South Shore Tech. So
Will they be ready for a fall town meeting?
I believe that's their intention, but I'm not
I
sure.
know they were leaning they were
Yeah.
hoping that way, but I haven't heard anything since we saw them.
Because I believe, so if I'm not mistaken, it was going to be, I want to say a November-ish, and then I want to say they wanted to do a ballot sometime in January, so I'll get confirmation on that. Right now, other than that, I don't see a need for a special. So barring any craziness coming up, we might not have to have one, and if we do have one, it seems like it would be obviously specifically for that, but then, if we're gonna have one,
If we're gonna have one, we throw.
Something will come
we
on.
Throw whatever the other things we need on there.
Right. But that being said, we do know that we are going into a very difficult
Year.
budget year.
Yeah.
We do have to start talking about what we want to do or what I want to do with the trash. I think we have to probably start those conversations earlier
Yeah.
than normal.
Recycling.
Excuse me?
We know what Greg.
The
wants.
recycling. We want to discuss the recyclable trash.
Is that gonna be something that's exclusively with FinCom, or are you gonna have a separate committee with like health, selectmen? something?
Yeah, I think it'll be a separate committee, but I think, obviously, you know, it's always my goal and always has been, and we've been pretty good about it, is going in with one budget and one plan. So I'd like to continue along with that. So obviously I need this board to kind of help figure out what we're gonna do, and if it doesn't change, then so be it. But I think we have to look at it with the overall big picture, which I'm not sure, you know, with Andrew, I mean, I guess the question is when you feel comfortable about first projections and when, you know, I think either way, probably late September, we should probably consider a meeting.
Yeah, I was figuring that probably on the earlier side in September would probably be when would be appropriate to have our next meeting. There's not usually much we need to go over in August, but I don't want to get going into the school year in the fall without meeting and getting the ball rolling, figuring out timelines.
Let's get some momentum.
And then in terms of potential agenda items, the town charter made some changes, correct, to what the structure of various boards are gonna be. Are we supposed to have did that not go through?
Well, it did. I don't think there was a big change to the structure of the boards, but,
Just in terms we're supposed to have policies and procedures and are we gonna need to implement anything that?
I think, I mean, you do have policies, you have financial policies. I don't think there's much more that's gonna affect this board with some name changes. But none of it goes into effect until
The AG.
the annual, no, we actually have to vote it at the next annual election.
Really?
Yeah, we couldn't do it at there's a certain timing or whatever, so it couldn't be done at the election that followed town meeting. It has to be at the subsequent election. So we do, it does go to a ballot vote,
Okay,
Okay.
and then it'll go into effect.
okay. All right, so we got time.
We can monkey around for another year.
Okay, fair enough.
So with that, let me look at the calendar. Oh. So the first week of September, Wednesday is September 4th.
We stay away from that.
That might be a little early with back to school and everything. The week after that, the Wednesday is September 11th. Not always crazy doing things on September 11th. Do we want to go the 18th or do we think the 11th? Do we think the 11th?
18th.
Let's do November.
That's good.
Let's start that.
Let's aim for the 18th. Sound good? All right, put it in your calendars. That takes us to the end of our agenda for tonight. Does anyone have anything else that they wanted to discuss or bring up? Any motions?
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
There's a motion to adjourn and a second. Any discussion? Without any, all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
All those opposed, abstaining? It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you all for your time, and I will see you in September.